7 subtle signs. Your partner has an avoidant attachment style, according to psychology. Relationships can be tricky, especially when your partner's emotions seem hard to understand. Sometimes it feels like they care about you, but at the same time, they seem distant or hesitant to open up. If you've noticed this pattern, your partner may have an avoidant attachment style. Understanding attachment styles can help you make sense of your relationship. People with an avoidant attachment style often struggle with emotional closeness and may act in ways that seem confusing or even hurtful. Not because they don't care, but because they feel safer when they keep a certain distance. So, how can you tell if your partner has an avoidant attachment style? Here are 7 subtle but important signs that may reveal their emotional patterns. 1. They struggle with emotional intimacy. If your partner avoids deep conversations or seems uncomfortable when you talk about feelings, this could be a sign of avoidant attachment. People with this attachment style tend to see emotional closeness as overwhelming or even threatening. For example, they might change the subject when you try to talk about your emotions. They may not share their own feelings even when they seem upset. If you express love and affection, they may not respond the way you expect. This doesn't mean they don't care. Rather, they've learned, often from childhood, that showing emotions can be risky or make them feel vulnerable. They may fear that if they let someone in too much, they will lose their independence or get hurt. What you can do is, don't pressure them to open up right away. Instead, create a safe space where they feel comfortable expressing their emotions at their own pace. Understand that emotional distance is their way of protecting themselves, not a sign that they don't love you. 2. They resist depending on others. Have you ever offered your partner help only for them to reject it, even when they clearly need it? Avoidantly attached people often feel the need to be completely independent, even in a close relationship. For example, they prefer handling problems on their own rather than asking for support. They may feel uncomfortable when you do things for them, like cooking them a meal or giving them advice. They might say things like, "I don't like relying on people," or "I can handle this myself." This behavior is often linked to their past experiences. If they grew up in an environment where asking for help was seen as a weakness, they may have learned to rely only on themselves. What you can do is, let them know you're there for them, but don't force them to accept help. Show them through small actions that needing support is normal and healthy in a relationship is. 3. They find it hard to be vulnerable. Being vulnerable means opening up about fears, insecurities, and personal struggles. But for people with an avoidant attachment style, this can feel incredibly uncomfortable. You may notice that your partner avoids deep personal conversations, uses humor or sarcasm to deflect serious topics, becomes distant when something emotional happens. They might have learned in childhood that being vulnerable leads to rejection or disappointment. So instead of sharing their feelings, they choose to keep them locked away. What you can do is, be patient and let them open up at their own pace. Show them that vulnerability is not a weakness, but a way to deepen the relationship. 4. They rely on themselves too much. People with avoidant attachment styles often see themselves as completely self-sufficient. This means they might avoid leaning on you, even during tough times. For instance, your partner might refuse to talk about a stressful day at work, keep their problems to themselves instead of sharing them, get frustrated if you try to step in and help them. This extreme self-reliance comes from a fear of dependency. They worry that if they rely on you too much, they will lose their independence or become vulnerable. What you can do is, let them know that being in a relationship means supporting each other, not taking away independence. Offer help without pushing too hard. They might not accept it right away, but over time, they may become more open to it. 5. They avoid talking about the future. When a relationship is going well, most couples naturally discuss future plans. But someone with an avoidant attachment style may resist this. You may notice that your partner gets uncomfortable when you talk about future vacations, moving in together, or marriage. Prefers to live in the moment rather than make long-term commitments. Seems hesitant to define the relationship or talk about future milestones. This doesn't necessarily mean they don't love you. Instead, they might see long-term planning as a threat to their freedom. They may fear that committing too much will trap them in the relationship. What you can do is give them space and time to process the idea of a future together. Avoid ultimatums. Forcing them into decisions might push them further away. 6. They struggle to express affection. Affection is an important part of any relationship. But for someone with an avoidant attachment style, expressing love might not come naturally. You may notice that they rarely say "I love you" or compliment you, aren't very physically affectionate, hugs, kisses, holding hands. Show love in indirect ways, like doing practical things for you instead. This doesn't mean they don't care. In fact, they might show love through actions rather than words, like fixing something for you, making sure you're safe, or giving you space when you need it. What you can do is pay attention to the other ways they show love. They may express it through small actions rather than words. Communicate your needs without demanding change. Instead of saying, "You never say you love me," you could say, "I feel really happy when you express affection." 7. They like to have control in the relationship. For people with avoidant attachment, control can feel like security. If they feel in control of situations, they believe they can protect themselves from emotional pain. You might notice that your partner prefers to make most of the decisions in the relationship, doesn't like surprises or unexpected changes, gets anxious if things feel out of their control. This need for control isn't about controlling you, it's more about managing their own emotions. What you can do is find a balance where both of you feel comfortable making decisions together. Reassure them that the relationship is a partnership, not something they need to control. So, recognizing these signs in your partner doesn't mean you should label them or assume they don't love you. People with avoidant attachment styles do care deeply, but they express love in a different way. The key to a successful relationship with an avoidant partner is understanding, patience, and open communication. Instead of taking their actions personally, recognize that their behavior is often based on past experiences and fears. If both of you are willing to work together, you can create a relationship where both partners feel secure, respected, and loved. Understanding is the first step to bridging emotional distance and strengthening your bond.